Just a little bit about Sphere so you know where this information comes from. We have a consumer research side headed up by Susan at our company that really tracks consumers, tracks environment, technology, retail trends, big picture societal changes. Then we have a product trend group that does about 45 trade shows a year all over the world looking at product trends. We do 20 cities a year where we go into the United States in 20 cities and we look at retail, home, we meet with chambers of commerce, we go investigate new businesses, we do a lot of in-depth work, so that's kind of where this information comes from. So we're going to talk today, what does it really mean when the world is changing so fast? And it's changing for a lot of reasons, but the other side of the change is that expectations are higher than they've ever been before. They've never been this high from all of you. How many of you are retailers here? And manufacturers? And designers? All right, so the expectations are really high. Now, technology has been part of this change. The recession, of course, has been the other part. But things are moving so fast, and you have people so smart that you're dealing with. Their research is unbelievable before they even think about a project, before they go shopping, before they buy. So what really does it mean for you that all this is happening? So you have to know your consumer. I mean, it really is the end result. But you're going to get a little bit of a 30-minute run through of those consumers today because there's huge changes out there. We always love how Ralph Lauren puts it, though. Just let me know who the person is, and I can design for that person. And it's really about knowing who that person is and asking a whole new set of questions. It's not the same old questions. Your business model will change. It has to change for the future. You can't ask the same old questions anymore because they don't really work as well as they used to. And we'll talk about why. Visit Uncontained because a lot of the research is in Uncontained section back here of the show. And you'll see the consumer segmentation and the research. And then we brought it to live in containers and designed containers for you to look at these inspirations for these consumers of the future. We're going to talk about generations today. The youngest, digital from birth, very young, but very important to you. If you're a retailer out there and you've got a shop, if you don't have a little area for the kids to play in, that's probably a big no-no because you're going to have all these kids coming into the marketplace soon. Gen Now, your future. Gen Now, 15 to 34, your future. Baby boomers have been the backbone of growth in this country. That is not going to continue. We're not going to continue to be the backbone of growth for the United States. It's impossible. How many of us are turning 65 every day? We are going to work longer, which is good. We'll have more discretionary income. Baby boomers have 60% of the discretionary income, and will continue for a little bit longer period of time. But when somebody turns, we're going to talk a lot about the brain today and the mind today. At age 65, the brain actually starts to process a little bit differently, physically processes differently. And people start to think differently and act differently and react differently. So we really understand that the Zoomers have really grown, this United States and the growth, but your future is in Gen Now because there's 84 million of those consumers. There was 80 million baby boomers. There's 84 Gen Now, and guess what? The Immigration Services said that number is going to be 92.6 million because they're going to open some doors to immigration and we're going to let in a lot of young people. And so you have to understand your future because it will arrive with or without you, and these people will find it without you if you're not with them. They're really unbelievably savvy. Gen X is stuck in the middle, fragmented generation, only 49 million, had a whole different psychographic growing up, causing them to, they tell us if they want to buy a big home, if they had the money to buy a big home, 62% said we won't buy a big home. We don't want it. We lived in one. It wasn't great. My parents worked so hard trying to pay for it, I had to make my own supper. So they're psychographically, a lot of them did get married, a lot of them didn't have kids that did get married, and they're changing the way they're living in a big way, and we'll talk about that. Baby boomers, and now you can't lump these generations all together because there's really 5-year segmentations in each one of these generations. We see shifts after 5 years. So we lump them together because that's the way the Census Bureau does, but you can't really lump them together. Baby boomers numbers 80 million. We're going to talk a little bit about each one. But the future, if you look at that lower left picture, that child is in the back seat of a car, virtually inserting himself into the game, which is a hologram. So he has his own hologram inserted into the game in the back seat of a car, and it's all virtual hologram reality games in the back seat of that car. Now, important for you to know how he's sitting, how he's holding the device, the position of his neck, the position of his arms and shoulders, because that's the way the body is shaping. It's changing physically because of what's happened to us, because of technology. So very important that when this child is in the kitchen or in a bathroom, they're going to have some problems. And you need to understand what's really happening to them physically as well as mentally, because they're not really quite all right. They are very creative. The first big creative class, hugely creative. Left and right brained, actually. They're becoming more left and right brained and very creative. So you have to know how to talk to kids, because Gen Now is going to, in the next 5 years, the biggest growth of the population in the United States will be the very old and the very young. The very old and the very young. That's the highest growth. Kids under 5, because Gen Now is starting to have kids. And there's going to be 92 million of them. And once they have kids, it's all about the kids. The kitchens, the baths, the rooms of the home, it's their car. We work with a large car company, and let me tell you, it's all about these kids in the car. And so it's really about understanding what's happening in the whole dynamics of the family and the consumer. We're going to spend a lot of time on Gen Now today, even though we've only got 30 minutes, because we do feel it is your future. Record marriage rate, everything is being delayed for them. The economy has hit them very, very hard. They're having trouble finding jobs. Unemployment is the highest. They're moving in with their parents, living much longer. It's huge. I mean, boys come back and live 3.8 years, girls 2.6, and they're living home for a longer period of time, and they're not working. So they're going back to school. I was just down at North Carolina State University. I work with their Fashion and Technology Design College there, and they're getting their grad degrees. They're staying in school. They're trying to get it figured out. They're trying to really work through it, and they blame me because I won't retire and get out of their way, so to speak, because we're part of the reason they're not finding jobs as well, because we're working longer. It's the first time we've ever had 4 generations in a workforce, ever. We've only had 3 prior to this involvement of these generations. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about today is the brain, a little bit of the brain of the Gen Now, because here's something you really need to know. If you are 25 years and under, your brain works differently than my brain physically. My brain does not work the same. In the hippocampus of the brain, which is the center of the brain, if you're under 25, you send 20 times more neural signals than my brain sends in a second, in 1 second. Hand and eye and brain communication has changed the physical structure of the brain, and it's the first time the brain has evolved in a long time. Now, how do they see you? How do they hear you? How do they listen to you? Because, by the way, they have lost long-range hearing. They have very acute short range, but hardly very little long-range hearing. And so they don't really hear you well. And they have a very low tolerance rate. They get frustrated very quickly. And let me tell you, they want to come in, if you're in a business, they want to design their kitchen, have the printout and the cost in 30 minutes or less. 30 minutes or less. I worked with party homes. They did it. It's 30 minutes or less. You can walk through their home, go to their big design screen, sit down and design your home, pick the paint colors, cabinets, bathroom, floor. 30 minutes, you're out of there. Your loan is applied for. It's all done on the computer, just like that. And that's kind of how they operate. They've done their research before they come in. They do not read left to right. They do not read top to bottom. Their eyes do not process the same way your eyes process. So their hearing and their vision is not like other generations. So when you think about having something for them to look at, a design, they're going to start in the center. They're not going to start left to right and top to bottom. And they want a big visual in the center. And then everything comes out from the center, because that's the way their eye works now. So what the internet and what technology has done to their brain changes how they read and how they see and how they hear. So when you're running a business and you're talking to them, you want to make sure you're sitting darn pretty close to them if you want them to hear you. And you need to be sitting really pretty close. And you want to make sure they can see what you're seeing, and they can visualize like you visualize, because you don't, if you're under 25, you don't visualize or hear or see the same. So it's a really big difference. Now, they process images quicker. This is the first generation ever raised looking down. We have never had a generation raised looking down. That's huge. What happens is, because I did not have a remote control in my hands. These people think I am so old because I had a remote control and I had 3 television channels and I only had 3 stations and they went off at midnight. They don't have a clue. So anyway, I did not have a remote control in my hands. I did not have a handheld game. I did not have a cell phone, and I did not have a computer. So they were raised in a visual field that's like this. This is their visual field. Make no beans about it. Just read the book. And so what happens is they have lost peripheral vision. They do not have great side vision. In fact, in the research done by the national insurance agencies, kids who are 16 to 18 years old have 45 more side impact car crashes than any other segment of the population because they never saw it coming. So when you're thinking about designing a kitchen or a bath, what are they seeing from the side? Not much. Not much. What are they seeing right in front of them? 22 times more things than I can see in that same range. They will see 20 times more visual in that range than I will ever see. And they'll see it faster than me, quicker than me, and they'll be moved on to the next image faster than me. So they've been raised looking down. By the way, these thumbs, everybody, can you just put your thumbs up like this for me a minute? And pretend you're texting. Now turn your hand over. That's how their hand is being shaped. How do I open a cabinet door? I have to wear braces on my hands at night because I have this every night. And kids who are 18 are doing the same. So these were not meant to be used as fingers, these little devices here. So they've changed. So how do you design for a changed hand? Because round grab rails in a bathroom don't work. Their hand cannot grab the safety rail. They can't bring it together to grab it. So you have to understand this is really big dynamics when you're designing for these new visual tactile fields. Now, they're sensory acute. I've talked to you about where they're sensory deprived. They're sensory acute in their sense of touch, their sense of smell, and their sense of taste. They have much better acuteness than I do. So when you design something, you need to think about designing to their first touch point. Where do they first touch your product? And I don't care if it's an interior designer and it's your fabric. If it's your mood board, where are they going to touch it first? If you're in a manufacturing job, where do they touch your product first? It's a huge, big deal. So anyway, just a little bit, 30 minutes, it's a lot. So they're going to have reinvention of the basics. They don't want basics and price points like everybody else because they will have a delayed income earning potential. Now everybody thinks, does this mean I have to have less expensive products? No, you don't. You really don't, because they'll drive a Kia to get a granite countertop, and they don't care. In fact, they're not caring as much about cars than any other generation. This generation doesn't care about cars. So anyway, so they will really look at their peak earning years will not happen until they're in their 50s. Where every other generation, baby boomers were early 40s, Gen X is late 40s, this one will be 50s before they hit their peak earning years. But we've been in homes where we've had people put down the laminate floor with the granite countertop with very expensive cabinets, and then they buy the furniture at IKEA. They will find a way to do it. You have to understand what their hot spot is, but here's what they want from you. They want you to understand their lives. That's why at Uncontained we're giving you stories about their lives, because if you're a designer, they don't want you to say, let's take this room and do this. This would be great done like this. They want you to say, sit down and find out who I am. What are my hobbies? Forget the kitchen and bath. Where do I spend my time? What do my children do? What kind of crafts do I do? What kind of hobbies am I in? What activities do I do? Find out who I am and then design for me and make it work for me, but do it quickly. Don't take a lot of time in the process, because learn enough about me beforehand and then really learn more when I come in, because they like basics, but like in fabrics, we're just doing ombres and simple treatments to shape and color for them so that they have these great price points, but they're fresh and they're new and they're innovative and they love innovation. They will pay for innovation. They will pay for technology. I just got back from Milan where the iPod has been replaced by the iPad, and the kitchens have Lazy Susans where the iPad sits in the middle of the Lazy Susan, so everybody at the table can use the iPad on the Lazy Susan in the middle of the table. I saw it on everywhere embedded in countertops, and every bit of material that it could be embedded was the iPad. So learn about who they are in their lives and then design towards that, but give them some great basics and upgraded basics. This I have to go to the internet for. Is somebody back there? So we'll see what happens here. Nope. Is my help back there? I need to go to the internet for this. This is, I'm sorry, we had to switch computers because mine didn't work. So this was done overnight by 2 Gen Y people. This is Drinkify. And so if you're at a party and you are playing Adele and you want to mix some drinks, you simply go online to Drinkify, what would Adele drink? And it comes up what kind of drink to mix. So it's not happening. All right, so anyway, I'll just tell you, and it plays her music and it gives you the drink that she prefers. Now 2 guys created the program, launched it in 24 hours, and it's like how many zillions and millions of visitors at every cocktail party now. These kids work fast. They want it now. We call them Gen Now at our company because they kept saying now to us. Now, I want it now. And we're like, holy moly, I can't even think that fast. But they're really very active in that. So we're just going to move on to the next slide, please. Maybe. So Gen Now, a little bit more about them. Delayed earning years. They actually like tradition. Now everybody thinks that Gen Now will want hip, young, modern, urban kind of looks. They are moving to urban environments. 36% of them, upon graduating from college, is moving to a city urban environment. If you are a designer, where are you located? Where is your specialty? Where are you living? And are you living with where they're living? Now, they will stay in that urban environment until they decide to get married. And if they get married, and then they'll still stay, but if they have kids and the school systems aren't great, they'll move back out. But they don't even want to be in the suburbs. They want to be in the outer rings of the city if they can't stay in the city. So urban design, but guess what? They love traditional design. In our research, we're surprised by how much they were traditional. I think you're going to talk about transforming traditional, right? Or something. I'm sorry, but wait till your next speakers. But anyway, they actually like tradition with modern twists. So they'll take industrial and they'll take traditional and put it together. They are mixologists and they are design savvy and they really know their stuff. So gender neutral. I've never seen more androgynous design as I've seen. I just got back from Italy. I have to tell you, the men's and the women's haircuts are identical. You can't see the difference. And so we're really looking at gender neutral design. It's masculine and feminine brought together. This is a home that I was in. This is Gen X, the next older generation, stuck in the middle. This woman thought this was her starter home. She's now building a bedroom and a bathroom onto the back because she's going to be stuck here forever. She painted it purple and green. She has a purple kitchen. She's very design savvy. She said, I'm never going to get out of this house. She said, because I'm so underwater in this house, but my kids are going to be in high school before this thing gets better, before I'm out from underwater, and then my kids are going to be gone, so then I won't need a big house, so I'm just staying put. I'm just adding a bedroom and a bathroom on right now. This generation is what we call the most fragmented generation. If I had more time, I'd talk to you about psychographics even more. They grew up, children on the younger side of this, of the baby boomer, and they are not after what their parents had. A lot of these kids did not get married, did not have kids. That's because they were the first generation to be hit by such major emotional upheaval in their lives. 51% divorce rate, first time. Full-time working mother, full-time. Really just differences that have changed their whole way of thinking about their home and their lives inside of that home. If they do get married, they are splitting the chores. The men are just as design savvy. They've been raised with decorating shows. And so they're really very, very practical enthusiasts about their home, but practical. They're really reimagining their smaller homes, so they're doing a lot of tweaks and touches. I mean, putting tile around the window frame, something little. You know, putting nice new patterns of tile on the floor to make the laundry room. By the way, there's a big trend in laundry pantries. Just open shelving at the back of a laundry that is for everything in that home that they have no room for. They're putting it all back at the back of the laundry room if they have one, and using that space. And their outdoor space is really important to them because this generation and the younger part of this generation and the older part of Gen Now, the younger generation spent 93% of their time growing up indoors. Indoors. They grew up inside the home. They weren't exposed to sunlight. They weren't exposed to fresh air. Their outdoor environments are really important to them. So the outdoor kitchens, the outdoor rooms, we work in that industry, really important for this group and all groups actually. But very, very much about, they're not in their peak earning years. This is the highest underwater group that you have, underwater in their mortgages. And so they're very, very strapped, kind of cash strapped and house strapped. They're stuck in the starter homes when they didn't really want to be. A new class of amateur pros. Now, the other thing from Milan that I just came back, the growing kitchen. Now, we used to have lights for growing herbs in the kitchens in Milan. No, no, no. These are full gardens where they're recycling the water underneath the kitchen, using it to come down. It cools the wine on the way down to being repurposed and reused in other parts of the home. Tomatoes, lettuce, herbs, full garden at the end of the kitchen. And this is happening, and it's just, and I've got hundreds of pictures, but at least 50 pictures of growing kitchens where they're actually growing gardens inside the kitchen, but they're really smart kitchens. But anyway, they're cooking more, they're staying home more, they're staying at stay vacations more, so it's really another thing. The other important thing to know about this one, your outdoor environments for whoever you are and designers, more critical than ever before. 4 years ago, we called out a trend called living street side. And what we mean by that is, this is a kitchen, and you probably know Susan Sazenka. She's moved it to the front of the house. People are living in the front versus the backyards in the younger generations. They like to live in the front of the house versus the back. They used to grow up with the big patios, the big backyards. They want to know who's on their street. They want to know who's in their neighborhood. They want to sit on that front porch and know their neighbors. And they're gardening in the front yard versus the backyard. They're putting full patio furniture on their front porches. They are moving the kitchens to the front of the house so they can see outside. It's a really big trend. It started with this generation and moving down to other generations. They're masters at getting what they want. They're still stuck in these homes. So this woman will have the bag, but the coat and the hat came from Salvation Army. And they will trade up to trade down all the time. Dollar stores. Why is Walmart having trouble? Dollar stores. Goodwill, thrift stores. That's why Walmart's having trouble, because they've lost their low price point to those guys. So very savvy about getting what they want and how they want it. And they love old and new mixes together. This group will go online and study the year the house was built. And they'll look at that year and they'll go back and find what were the colors, what were the finishes, what were the interiors. So if you're designers, you need to be authentic restoration specialists. You need to know styles of homes, what the characteristics were, because they said, my house was built in 1929. I want to know how to make it authentic again. I'm about authenticity. This group has a huge thing about authenticity. And so they really want to know. They prefer homes built before World War II. They think they're better quality, and then they're willing to redo them. They love putting old and new together. Baby boomer zoomers, been on your back and raised this country and done a great job of it, but I have to tell you, things are changing for them, and how they're spending their money and what they're spending it on is changing. The younger part of baby boomers are underwater in their mortgages. The middle are having their parents and their kids move in with them. The olders are the empty nesters, where they've got more money and more income to spend. So you've got some dynamics within this group as well. They're still fueling the luxury market, but even these guys are painting their own homes again and not having it hired done. And so they're like even becoming much more practical luxury people in their way that they're thinking about doing and processing how they're doing it. They're moving from brands to artisan treatments. They're very interested in artisan authentic as well. And so brands are becoming a little bit less important to them, as they were important to them when they were younger, but not as important now. Love architectural detail and really transforming their space. They are about woodwork and moldings and detailings and ceilings. Ceilings have never been so hot. You see, ceilings have never been so hot. I have never seen so many treatments to ceilings in my life. I just was in a home in Raleigh, North Carolina, with burlap on the ceiling. And it was beautifully done in a tray ceiling. But the ceilings are as hot as ever for treatments and detailing. They thought they'd be empty nesters, but they're not. Their kids are home. Now their parents are also maybe moving back in. So those that are caught in the middle are really caught in the middle. Now, we asked them, where do you go to get away from this? Where do you go to get some relief? And I've only got 2 more minutes. Their bedroom, is number 1, is their sanctuary. Their outdoor space and their bathroom. Those are the very 3 rooms. You're shaking your head. That's where they go to get away. They don't want to be treated like old people. In fact, they're not. The new old for them is 75 plus, not 65 plus. So they really have a love of reinventing themselves. And this is a home I was in. This is a great reinvention of their outdoor space. And I'm going to end because it's time for somebody else to go on. But here, they took out the grass. They put in the tile. Yes, that is a TV and a gas fireplace. And it's a very small space. That condo is 1,800 square feet. It's not big, and it's not one of these huge places, but that's what they did to their backyard, because they are reinventing luxury and doing it their way. So I am going to have to end because we only have 30 minutes, but any quick questions from the audience? And then, yes?
I've been wondering, since the children now are shaping their bodies,
yes.
Be different, does it relate to as we age, how our bodies
yes. Yes. You have 164 million opportunities, because what's happening to their neck, their back, their shoulders, and their arms is at 16 the same as 65. And this hand, huge. Yeah, huge. So yes, you have a big opportunity. If you know your market and you know your generations, and you have a big opportunity to design for a huge group of people. There's so much more, but that's all I have time for today. You can get my card and look at, we do a newsletter and a blog, so yeah. All right, thank you, and we'll turn it over to the next speakers. Thank you.